had my co-author and good friend Anna on in your previous
Yeah.
episode, and uh, yeah, I just adore her and adore the path that we have followed together to be able to put this book together, because we're both mental health professionals, both
hmm
specialize in trauma,
hmm
who discovered that jujitsu was very much a missing link for us. Since this is a solo interview, I guess I'll stick to my path with it. That
Yeah.
I have always in my life been drawn to anything expressive. As a child, it was performing on stage with dance and drama and music. And when I began my counseling career, it was really through the expressive arts because I began as an English teacher in Croatia and Bosnia Herzegovina after the war. And it was there that I learned about how trauma survivors responded much better to expressive modalities, even
Mm.
in learning English, than just doing worksheets and bland stuff out of the book. And so, when I began my own counseling training, which was also born out of my own lived experience with healing from addiction and trauma, I just saw how well how authentic I felt teaching people expressive arts and how people connected, and then using embodiment methods to assist people in reconnecting with their body because trauma could really divorce us from connection to the body.
Yes.
And I mean, it was initially dance and expressive arts and yoga that did it for me. And I always had an intrigue with martial arts because it made a lot of good sense to me why certain trauma survivors would find it helpful. And I remember even passively sending a couple of my clients over the years to self defense classes, not really knowing the difference between the martial arts.
hmm
And like a lot of the women who we interviewed in the book, I found it through my children. Technically, my stepchildren. Uh, they're my children.
Sure.
And we had them both in a jiu-jitsu experience, especially the oldest one who was struggling with some behavioral concerns. And I was really impressed right away with how I saw the impact it had on the kids. And but it was just kind of 2 years where I paid for the lessons and just let them benefit from it. And one day they were running women's self defense class at the gym, and I actually hated it. The first one I went to, I was very triggered by it, very kind of felt the instructor didn't get it, but there was one female assistant there who really seemed to, and she remains a friend to this day, and she
Mhm.
was an interviewee for the book, and that made an impression on me, her presence there. So it was probably about another 6 months before I even considered trying another class. And how my son approached it to me was come to one of Micah's classes. And this is Micah Bender, who is my main coach, and I write about him a lot in the book. He'll get you. Like I think
Mhm.
he understands you. And Brendan, my son, was exactly right. And the public class I went to with Micah, I like to say it sucked less. I still wasn't
I know. I love how you say it.
yeah, I still wasn't convinced, but I knew if I was going to get this, it would be through this individual teaching
Right.
me. And I was privileged to embark on the path of private lessons with it at first. And even in that first private lesson, I sat Micah down for about 25 minutes with a, hey, this is trauma. This is how it affects me. This is how it's going to show up for me. But we clicked immediately, and within 3 lessons, I just loved how my body felt doing,
Yes.
starting to see the evidence of what it was doing in my life, especially as somebody who struggled with a negative belief like I am trapped, that so much of
Mhm.
my trauma history was defined by that, and
Yeah.
that could still flare up as a trigger. So literally learning wrist pin trap and roll, getting somebody off of me who was
Yeah.
trapping me was just wow. I
Right.
no amount of therapy, talk therapy, or even some of the funkier other stuff I do could have really done that,
Yeah.
other than really learning how to use body leverage. So I knew there was something to this right away, and I started connecting with people like Anna and Micah, and I did a workshop later that year for kind of like a trauma informed jujitsu. And through Anna, I got to meet a lot of really amazing people in the jujitsu world through Micah too, and some of my
Mhm.
other friends. And I think you know this, John, from your experience, a really cool group of people